Good afternoon, welcome back to something else to repair. A little bit different this time. Here's the sort of latching mechanism out of a umbrella. Outdoor table umbrella, you know, those really big ones. And this thing is the little piece that goes into the pole in the middle, and you push it in and got the spring here, and it's supposed to be used for... the spring is running away. It's supposed to be used for changing the tilt angle on the umbrella. You can lock it in a straight up and down position, or you can tilt it maybe 45 degrees or so to either side. And unfortunately I left it out in a storm last year, and this bit snapped. Now you can see it's quite small really, and it's not very good metal. I think it's just some sort of cheap alloy. I don't know what it is, but yeah, this piece is meant to go on here, and it provides a little sort of latching thing, and this kind of like a little keyway or something. But basically, as you can see, this broke off. I don't think the shear strength is very strong, and I was originally just going to use this to stick it back together. Good old J-B Weld, but I don't think the shear strength of that on such a small area as this is really going to be applicable to fixing it in the long term. So not unless you maybe drill down inside and put something inside, or something like a steel rod or something could do it, but it's too small and fiddly. And I thought about it, and I've never actually used the tilt function on the umbrella like normally. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue, well, epoxy with the J-B Weld, but I'm going to put this piece here is responsible for actually holding the mechanism in place, and this is just the button that you press on the outside when you want to change the setting, and that spring there is what lets it go in and out. And yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll just glue the whole thing together and fill up the whole part where that happens with epoxy, so that it'll be very strong and won't be able to move, but it also means I won't have the tilt function. But as I've never actually used that normally, then I don't think it matters. Yeah, so I think that's kind of the only way to fix it. It's fine. I mean, the umbrella was free actually, so I'm kind of like, whatever. If I end up desperately needing a tilt function, I can always buy a new one, I suppose. But as it stands, I mean, I think this will do perfectly fine for what I want. And yeah, it's just a shame they use such a cheap metal. I mean, I had the umbrella like rolled down and everything anyway. I just didn't expect that the wind would be that strong, unfortunately. So yeah, normally I would take it out of the table and put it away, but that night I forgot, and yeah, it was just bad luck. But I mean, I'm not surprised given how thin this actual piece of metal is, and it's not like, you know, proper steel or anything. It is some kind of cheap alloy, I think. So yeah, anyway, so I'm going to do that, and hopefully that will fix that. That might be something slightly interesting, something different to do with that. But yeah, spring, actually, I've cut the spring short so that when I put it back in, it will hold this out but not put too much pressure on it. The original part got distended when I pulled it out of the mechanism anyway, so it was all bent and wouldn't go back in the hole, so I had to cut it off. But yeah, I won't be using that anyway. I'll put this whole thing, I'll stick epoxy in there as well. Yeah, so anyway, that's a thing. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so just trying to show how this works. There's the slot there that little peg thing goes through, and on the other side is the part where you push it in. And if I just turn this here, you can see that kind of slot there on the side. That's for one of the tilt positions. Obviously it's the opposite of what it would be set to at the moment, but if you move it across, there's another one on the other side. And of course there's one in the center for when you want to lock it in the upright position and not have it tilted at all. And so I think instead of trying to glue the whole thing together, I can't really see this unfortunately, but yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just going to try and glue the epoxy, the bit that broke off, like into that slot in there, so that it's sort of glued between the side, this part here, and the slot on the inside in the centre of that bit that goes to and fro, and that should hopefully stop it from moving, and also means that the epoxy won't be anywhere near the string that lifts the umbrella up and down, the one that goes all through the middle. So because I don't want to get that stuck, otherwise I wouldn't be able to raise the thing up and down, obviously. It doesn't matter if I can't use the tilt function, because I don't think I'll ever really use that anyway. But obviously you need to be able to actually roll the umbrella up and down. But yeah, so it's hard to see. I'm trying to get some light in there, but this thing is hard to show. But yeah, you might be able to sort of get an idea of what I'm trying to do. And this narrower hole on the bottom is where that thin part goes through, where it broke off. And yeah, I just don't think the shear strength of the J-B Weld holding that little piece together would be good enough. So I think I'm just going to have to glue the whole mechanism in this slot to make it strong enough to actually work. And yeah, here's a view from the other side. You can see the little string inside there and the mechanism there. So you can see the other side, that square hole on the other side where the bit I'm going to glue in is, or will be. And yeah, so I just need to make sure I don't get epoxy down the side where that rope goes. Because initially I was just going to fill the entire thing with epoxy until I realised that rope is in the way, so I can only do it like on the back side where that tilt mechanism goes, and then maybe on the front in this part where the button normally goes, I can epoxy that side in as well. To make it look nice, so we don't have a giant hole there. But yeah, and that little hole there is where the spring goes normally, to keep tension on the button so that it only tilts when you press it, and obviously it comes back. Anyway, so yeah, I just got to do that. So I've mixed up some J-B Weld, and I'm just about to put it in where I need to put it, and then I'll see what happens. Alright, so I've put some epoxy in the hole, and then I've pushed this little piece in on top, and I'll just shove it in like that. There we go, so that does fit. That should have pushed some in there into the thing. I can scrape that excess off. And then I just got to go around the other side and get some into the other bit. A bit hard to see possibly, but if you look inside that hole you can see like a shiny grey thing potentially. That's the bead of J-B Weld that is kind of stuck through the hole in the bottom when I push the other side in, so that should help keep everything in place. And just checking to make sure it's not touching that string there, which it isn't, so that all looks good. Now I can put this other side on to make it look nice, and hopefully that will solve the problem. And there we go, we got the other piece put in. It's all nice and flush and looks good, so not sticking out so that it would impede the action of this going up and down, but also not indented and looking weird or anything. So yeah, that looks good. Just got to wait for the epoxy to set now, and then it should at least be usable, even if I can't use the tilt function anymore, which, like I said, I don't really ever have any use for anyway. So yeah, it normally just pivots on this bolt, I guess, and goes through there, but there's some tape I've put on the other side to hold that in place. I'll put some tape over this side too, and there's some duct tape around the thing to hold it in place while it cures. And yeah, nothing really much else to say, I guess. Hopefully it should work. I don't really see why it wouldn't. And there we go, just winding the umbrella down now, and you can see that everything still works, so that's good. I'll just try not to get myself stuck in here. Yeah, so I just got to put it aside and put it away and leave it for a couple of days, or however long it takes, I don't know. 17 to 24 hours I think it says, so yeah, that's, well, one day I guess. Alright, and there we go. It's a couple of days later. I didn't do this straight away because it was pouring with rain for a few days, but there we go. The umbrella is back on the table now, and it should be all good to go. So oops. As you can see, the handle does still work, and there's the bit there. And it works just fine. We can see there's the bit there that I've epoxied in. It seems nice and tight, it's not going anywhere. Around the other side the button is the same. And there we go, it all seems to work fine. So, and there's a little wasp's nest up there somewhere. But yeah, there we go. And then the umbrella is usable again, and that's really nice because the weather will hopefully get better and it will actually make sense. Yeah, so I don't know, that should last long enough, I think. It might outlast the actual canvas, which I don't know how old that is and how long that's got left, but it should be fine. Anyway, it's a thing, and if it all completely fails, I can just buy a new one. They're not that expensive, but yeah. As a temporary fix, or as a temporary permanent fix, I don't know. I think this should work quite well. So there you go. Hopefully that was interesting. Maybe that was useful. And I'll see you next time.